First time I've heard that commercial in a long time. We're back with Jedediah Laub-Klein, and I am Craig Berry on the Craig Berry Radio Experience. So, Jed, you were telling us about the intro to your film, and let's see if we can get that going in a minute. But go ahead and talk about that for a moment.
Well, basically what happened was my friends and I always, Acres of Books was located in downtown Long Beach, and it was located right next to a liquor store. So you had a real choice clientele coming in. But you also had people who were book buyers and book dealers and famous people, and they all kind of mixed in this sort of very Long Beachian soup of, like, I'm drunk, you're Gary Owens, here's some hottie from the beach, here's a bunch of elderly people from some cruise ship, and it was always this sort of whacked out mix of people. And then what also made it better was the crew that worked there. They were just as whacked out, and we sort of became a family. I mean, it was one of those situations where I stood next to my boss and watched him get a divorce. Seriously. It was not funny. I mean,
well, it is. That actually could be a really cool subject for your next film.
Well, it could. But so everybody was very comfortable, and I think that because they were comfortable, it was easy to just sort of set up a camera and start shooting because we'd all been through everything together anyway, and some unmentionable stuff that we're not going to go into. But and we had concerts and we had poetry readings and we were all kind of into our own little sort of grooves, but they all fit together, and then they didn't because we were like a family, so we were fighting all the time, and it was one of those things. And it was a really fun place to work. And what happened is a friend of mine and I would go home and watch the Anna Nicole Smith show and go, why does this broad have a show and we don't? And we were going to write up a treatment for a reality show because we just thought it would be nuts, which it would. And we never really got around to the treatment. And, we kept saying, we got to bring a camera in here. We got to film these people. And eventually, and I said, the only way I'm going to do it is if we have an ending. So when the bookstore finally announced it was closing, that was my ending. So, and I could do everything that I literally, what I did, the way I did it was I made a list of everything that I wanted in the film. And we're going to get, I knew were different, so nothing was set in stone. And then I just sort of checked off the list. I want a whacked out customer, okay, I got that. I want, I need to have this guy have a mental breakdown, okay, we got that. I want, and because I knew what I could get people to do, and I sort of knew the rhythm of the place. So, and then I was going to put it all together in a coherent fashion, which is more difficult than it sounds.
Right. Well, let's play this clip, the opening clip from the movie.
Yeah, this is actually from the opening of this is the introduction of the bookstore itself.
Okay. Here it is on KTSTFM.com.
Best thing about Acres, of course.
Well, you know what? It sounds like there's a little technical difficulty with that opening.
It's not actually a techno intro, so that's not right.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing this. It doesn't seem to want to play after the 2 seconds, but let's see.
That you can't get on a computer screen. The internet is a wonderful thing. I love the internet. The best research tool, the best communications tool ever invented by man. But this is fantastic because, let me get a better example. You walk into the place and you're instantly taken up in the atmosphere of people, of words, of culture, of ideas.
I mean, that's the thing about a bookstore is that it's a land of opportunity, literally, intellectual opportunity. There's all sorts of things waiting on those shelves if you care to look, if you care to look.
All right, so that is the intro to the movie. It seems as though the clip may have just a little technical glitch into it, but anyways, that sums up the movie. I think the movie was just so well done, and you could see through the movie that everybody was close, like you mentioned.
Yeah, no, we were very close, and I don't know whether it had to do with that we were all about in our mid-30s and, sort of we hadn't quite lived up to our potential, shall we say, and but we all became friends, and it was sort of this, and that was part of what was lost, was this community, and when you think of a city, you're basically, and it doesn't matter whether it's Long Beach or someplace in Zimbabwe, you're thinking of a community. And if you can find that community, that's what's important. And that's basically what my film is about. It's about community itself, and how sort of a place like Acres of Books was a magnet for people, whether they were, who maybe not wouldn't have had a magnet somewhere else. And I think that's an important aspect of society, and to not have that just feeds alienation, which is sort of something that I'm sort of against. I don't know why.
You against alienation?
Strange it works that way, huh?
See, I thought you were all for the alienation.
I'm not for the alienation.
Oh, okay.
The film or the sociological concept.
Well, yeah, sometimes we all have a sociological concept in mind, and this group right here, even though 1986 they made this song, and it's by a group called Poison, called Nothing But a Good Time.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Every time I see your film, it looks like the people in your film were having nothing but a good time.
Yes.
Well, here they are. Here's Poison on KTST-FM. Ain't nothing but a good time. I'm Craig Barry. You're listening to the Craig Barry Experience. Anyways, Jed, talk a little bit more about your film and photography, how you got interested in photography.
Well, what happened was that after I saw Stanley Kubrick, after I saw Clockwork Orange, I started researching Kubrick and found out that he was a photographer. So I thought, oh, well, that'll be like, I'll become a photographer and then I'll sort of transfer into film like he did, because, of course, I am exactly like him. Unfortunately, I'm not. But what happened was that I sort of got stuck in photography for about 10 years. And printing, processing, color, black and white, working with cameras where mistakes were made in them, just everything, shooting under all kinds of different conditions. It got to the point where I actually started to bring my mistakes to my teacher, and my teacher actually said to me, I don't even know what you're doing back there, but please stop it, because you're destroying things. So I learned a lot, and I learned fast. Not fast enough for that teacher, and I think what happened was that transferred into when I started making films, I started learning that it was that they were connected, and I started seeing more and more films and looking at more and more photography, and sort of became a visual artist, basically. So when I went to make my first film was made about the other place that I worked that was interesting, but there was no real visual interest. So when it came to Acres of Books, I knew that this was a treasure trove, that I could have a field day shooting here, and I did. I filmed almost everything that I could. I filmed a lot of different things. I filmed all the interviews. All the interviews were done in the bookstore itself, so you never actually leave the bookstore. The farthest away you go from the bookstore is across the street for the opening shot. So you're in that bookstore, and it has this sort of claustrophobic feel, but it's dying and it's depressing, and I think that's what made it interesting, is that you're not leaving the bookstore, and it's this visual element. And someone came up to me at the premiere and said, not only could I see the bookstore, but it was as if you could taste it. I mean, and the bookstore sort of had this smell to it, of dust and cat and grime, and when it rained we used to have to place buckets out in the middle of the aisles because it would drip. Never dripped on the books. It would just drip on the aisles, and we had 1 million books, so it was a miracle. But it was, and when it rained, and whenever it rains, it's like I just think of Acres, and it's the only place I want to be when it rains, because it was the most unbelievable physical experience to be among 1 million books in the back of some corner with books that hadn't been looked at in 20 years, and it's pouring outside, and it's pouring some places in here, but it's like you're home. And that, for me, was what that bookstore represented, was a second home. I mean, when I was a teacher, I would never take my camera equipment to school because I was afraid to get ripped off. And at Acres, I'd just leave it there for days because no one's ever going to touch it, because you can't even figure out how to get back to the staff room to touch it. So it really had this. It was a very cozy place, and that's sort of what I wanted to put across in the film.
It seemed to have this bohemic
Oh.
Je ne sais quoi, if you will.
Oh yeah, we started having poetry readings. We were having poetry readings every Friday night, and we would have special Edgar Allan poetry. We had hoboetry, which was poetry based on the homeless. We had, and none of this was my idea, so I'm just rattling off names. We had stuff on Shakespeare. We would do readings of Poe for Halloween. We had some guy almost burned down the bookstore on Halloween, and. It was always, there was always something going on. Either that or we were all mad at each other, so that was going on. But it was, that's part of why, I met you 3 years too late, because had I met you 2 years ago, I would have just said, Barry, you got to go to this place. You're going to love it. And you wouldn't have left.
Well, I understand that. It's one of those things. I mean, even in your film, you even had some real celebrities that, let's say they, I don't want to use the word crazy, but a little bit eccentric.
Well, the celebrities weren't crazy because I edited them so they looked sane. But some of the customers were nuts. Yeah. but I mean, I was there. Ray Bradbury was friends with the owner, so when he found out the bookstore was closing down, he came down to visit us. We had 24 hours notice. We literally spent the last 2 hours of work calling everybody we knew, screaming at them that Ray Bradbury was coming down, and the media showed up, and he showed up, and it was this sort of, and he was like all mad in that kind of grumpy old man way, and screaming at us about a variety of issues.
And knowing you, Jed, you're almost as left as, actually you're a little further left than I am, and that's hard to do. And Ray, well, not so much.
Not so left. Yeah, we left those on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
But
it was an interesting dichotomy of people that would go
Oh yeah, and that was part of the fun. And actually, when I edited this, I wanted to remove almost all politics from it and make it an apolitical story, which I think I did.
You did.
And but what was funny about Ray is that Ray came in and he was like, "I come down here every 6 months. I love this place. I love everything about this. I'll come down and bless the goddamn place. I'll put up a cross. They should make it the head of this." And then at the end he started going on about how he was driving up to Oregon and they were going to let him fly the spruce goose. And I'm just going like, dude, there is no way they're going to let you fly the biggest plane in the world. I don't know what dimension you're living in, but it ain't happening, honey.
We're talking to Jedediah Laub-Klein, creator extraordinaire,
director.
I like creator too.
Well, it's more godly. I'll take it.
Of Death of an Independent. And do you have a website or an email where people can get a copy?
Well, you can find me on Facebook. I think I'm on Facebook at Bog Kitchen, which is the name of my website. And you can just type in Jedediah Laub-Klein, JEDIAH LAUB-KLEIN. You can find me there, or what you can do is go to Barry's. I'm friends with Barry on Facebook. You can find me there. I'm always saying obnoxious things on his page. So.
Oh yeah. By the way, if you go to my Facebook, I'll use my real name. It's Barry C. Steinberg on Facebook. Okay, so you can find me. Of course, you're probably already listening to me, so.
And you probably already know who he is.
Yeah,
so.
And I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I know.
All right, we're going to play a little bit of music right now. We're going to wrap things up with Jed. Jed, thank you very much for coming in.
Oh, no problem. It was fun.
And we really enjoyed it. This hour has flown by. Right now, here's Bob Seger and Like a Rock on KTSTFM.com and American Radio Network.